Shalom Yasharaal, this is Hadassah Batsaiwan coming to you again with part 2 of the Chariots of Yasharaal, and we're going to answer a very, very important question. The Rapture or Chariots? Now, the first thing we're going to look at is an old Negro song called Swing Low, Sweet Chariot that was sang by our forefathers when they were in slavery, when they were working for the massa. And let's look at the lyrics. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Did they know something that we didn't know? Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what do I see? Coming for to carry me home. A band of angels coming after me, coming for to carry me home. If you get there before I do, coming for to carry me home. Tell all my friends I'm coming too, coming for to carry me home. Now they sang these songs while they were slaves in the countries of their slave masters. They were nowhere near the Jordan. Did they know something that we did not know? And we still don't know. Some of us are still blinded by lies. So let's look at a second one. It's called Now Let Me Fly. Way down yonder in the middle of the field, angel working on a chariot wheel. Not so particular about working at the wheel, but I just want to see how the chariot feel. Now this is the chorus. Now let me fly. Now let me fly. Let me fly to Mount Zion, and that's Zion. Now let me fly. Now let me fly. Let me fly to Mount Zion, which is Zion. I got a mother in the promised land. Ain't gonna stop till I shake her hand. Not so particular about shaking her hand, but I just want to get up in the promised land. Did our forefathers know something that we don't know? Yes, they do. Yes, they did. And we don't. They knew about the chariots. They knew about flying to Mount Zion. Mount Zion. Where is Mount Zion? It's not here yet. Where are they flying to? Is Israel still the promised land? No, it's not. It's been taken over. Right? But we're going to see more and more and understand why and where we will be headed in these chariots. And I basically answered the question off the bat. But there's proof. There's proof to show you what I'm talking about. And we're also going to take a look at the Rapture Theory as well, so that you can have an idea what it's all about and you can compare and contrast. These two popular Negro spiritual songs were sung by our forefathers just a few hundred years ago when they were taken on slave ships and brought to the Americas and the Caribbean islands. Now this is the southern kingdom that were taken as slaves. The southern kingdom, which made up of Yahuwah, Benaiah, Mayan, which is the tribe of Benjamin, Judah, and half the tribe of Lewi. 2.5 tribes. At first glance, these songs may seem pointless to their slave masters at that time. Excuse me. But in actual fact, they were made to be handed down to a distant future generation. That's us, who will be able to decode their hidden messages. They were always under tremendous scrutiny, and when they were forced into their master's religion, otherwise known as Christianity, they thought to make these songs as a way to help us, their offspring, to know the truth. They wanted us to know the truth, at least a little bit of something. You see, they knew the truth about who they were, where they came from, and where they will be headed next. They recognized that they were being forced to deny their names their beliefs, their customs, their language, and even worship in a gradual manner. And it was only a matter of time when a generation would be born that would be clueless about the truth regarding their ancestry. Therefore, our forefathers devised a plan that could be kept within the sight of the slave masters, but leaving them clueless as to what this plan was all about. Just as Satan's plan to slowly indoctrinate one generation after another through education and religion, so was the plan of our forefathers, which I believe was executed by Yahuwah. That was the reason why the slave masters were clueless. Music is a major part of our worship today, and it was the same with our forefathers, even way back in the land. Music was a huge part of our worship. Dawad, King Dawad, he had a choir that was massive, and the musicians. So music was a major part of our worship. They used this gift to their advantage to keep a little of the truth alive. They wanted to let their offsprings, the ones who will be awakened as to who they really are, know even a little snippet of truth about the chariots that are coming. Let us look at the two Negro spiritual songs, Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, which was an all-time favorite of many churches that were predominantly attended by Negroes. I remember hearing that song as a child growing up, and my great-grandma, she was in her little Nazarene church, and they used to sing these songs and beat the tambourine. But I doubt they knew what they were singing about. But that music now has been passed on to this generation, because this is the generation that will know what they were singing about. Because the Most High had it hidden all this time, just like He had us hidden for all this time. People keep saying that we were the lost tribes. We were never lost. We've been hidden. We've been hidden until a particular generation was born, and then He would reveal by awakening us to who we really are. And that's us. Our grandparents sang this song as part of their praise and worship, not knowing what they were really singing about. Now, before anyone thinks to debunk a chariot swinging low, remember, we as people use the English language in the strangest way sometimes. And trendy slangs that get passed along from generation to generation are easily understood. For example, hit the road, Jack. You know that song, you know that saying. It's not meant to be taken literally. It's not who's Jack, what is Jack, and what's hitting the road, right? That's not the meaning of what that slang is. It simply means to let us get on our way or let us go, right? Similarly, chariots do not swing per se, but maybe our forefathers were alluding to an aspect of this particular chariot and what it can do. When they were singing about the chariots swinging low, could they be speaking about a chariot that was airborne, getting low enough to pick them up? If you think that is impossible, let us look at some scriptures and see what they say. Always go to the truth. The scriptures, that's our manual of truth. Let us start with the first man that encountered a swinging chariot. And we go to Shayat, which is the book of Genesis, chapter 5, verse 24. And Hanawak, and that is Enoch, walked with Alahayam, and he was not, for Alahayam took him. Let us look at this sentence that says, for Alahayam took him. How did He take him, and where did He take him? To find the answers to these pertinent questions, we have to step out of the Bible, so to speak, and step into the books of the Apocrypha, the ones that they removed, that were originally part of the Bible, to find the history behind what happened to our forefathers. Now, the Apocrypha are our history books that were taken out of the Bible. I keep repeating myself. because I speak ahead of myself. Yashar, which is the book of Jasher, chapter 3, verse 23 to 38. Sometime after, when the kings and princes and the sons of men were speaking to Hanawak, and Hanawak was teaching them the ways of Al-Hayam, an angel of Yahuwah then called to Hanawak from heaven, and wished to bring him up to heaven to make him reign there over the sons of Al-Hayam, as he had reigned over the sons of men on the earth. And I have that highlighted because we're going to come back to the part where it says to have him reign there over the sons of Al-Hayam, which will be the angels. They wanted him in heaven to reign over the angels, as he had reigned over the sons of men on the earth. Hanawak was like a king. In fact, he was a king over the men on the earth. He was a righteous king. Verse 24. When at that time Hanawak heard this, he went and assembled all the inhabitants of the earth and taught them wisdom, knowledge, and gave them divine instructions. And he said to them, I have been required to ascend into heaven, but I do not know the day of my going. And now therefore I will teach you wisdom and knowledge. I give you instruction. And that instruction would be the law, Tharawah, or the Torah. Before I leave you, how to act on the earth so that you may live. And he did so. So even way back then, Hanawah had the law and the commandments. Verse 26. He taught them wisdom and knowledge and gave them instructions. That's what the Torah is, the book of instructions, those 5 books of instructions. And he rebuked them, and he placed before them statutes and judgments to do on the earth. And he made peace among them, and he taught them everlasting life. Now, he didn't teach them everlasting life. He taught them the way to everlasting life. And the way to everlasting life was the wisdom and the knowledge and the instructions and the statutes and the judgments that he was sharing with them. And lived with them some time, teaching them all these things. Verse 27. At that time, the sons of men were with Hanawak, and Hanawak was speaking to them. And they lifted up their eyes, and the likeness of a great horse descended from heaven. And the horse paced in the air, so it was hovering in the air. Is that impossible? For a natural horse, yes. But a horse from heaven? No. And they told Hanawak what they had seen. And Hanawak said to them, on my account does this horse descend on earth. He's coming for me. It's almost time for me to go, folks. The time has come when I must go from you, and I shall no more be seen by you. The horse descended at that time and stood before Hanawak. In other words, Hanawak, it's time to go. And all the sons of men that were with him saw him. Hanawak then again ordered a voice to be proclaimed, saying, where is the man who delights to know the ways of Yahuwah Al-Hayyan, his Al-Hayam? Let him come this day to Hanawak before he is taken from us. All the sons of men assembled and came to Hanawak that day. And all the kings of the earth and their princes and counselors remained with him that day. And Hanawak then taught the sons of men wisdom and knowledge and gave them divine instructions. And he bade them serve Yahuwah and walk in his ways all the days of their lives. And he continued to make peace among them. It was after this that he rose up and rode on the horse. And he went forth, and all the sons of men went after him, about 800,000 men. And they went with him 1 day's journey. Now I'm going to pause there for a second because I'm going to read another excerpt from another book. I think it's the book of Adam and Hawa. And it didn't sound as though it was 800,000 men. But the whole idea here is we're going to glean the essence of what happened with Hanawak. It didn't matter if he was teaching 2 men, 3 men, 100 men, 800,000 men. It's not relevant. The number of people that he was teaching is not relevant to the story, to what happened to him, how he was taken up. Verse 33. The second day he said to them, return to your tents. Why do you go? Why will you go? Perhaps you may die. He's warning them, don't follow me. And some of them went from him, and those that remained went with him 6 days' journey. And Hanawah said to them every day, return to your tents that you may die. And they went with him. He said, return to your tents. Grow old and die there. But if you come with me, you may die sooner. Right? But they still went with him. 34, verse 34. And on the 6th day, some of the men remained and clung to him, and they said to him, we will go with you to the place where you go. As Yahuwah lives, only death shall separate us. Now, doesn't it sound familiar? Remember Aliyah and Yasharaal? But that was a different situation. Yasharaal was supposed to witness Aliyah going up to the heavens in the chariot of fire. But these men were warned to go back home. They urged him, verse 35, so much to go with him that he ceased speaking to them, and they went after him and would not return. When the kings returned, they caused a census to be taken in order to know the number of remaining men that went with Hanawah. And it was on the 7th day that Hanawah ascended into the heavens in a whirlwind with horses and chariots of fire. So he was taken up in a whirlwind, just like Aliyah, in a whirlwind with horses and chariots of fire. So this is not impossible to have a swinging chariot, a flying chariot. Verse 37. And on the 8th day, all the kings that had been with Hanawah sent to bring back the number of men that were with Hanawah in that place where he ascended into the heavens. All those men went to the place, and they found the earth there filled with snow, and on the snow were large stones of snow. And one said to the other, come, let us break through the snow and see, perhaps the men that remained with Hanawah are dead and are now under the stones of snow. And they searched, but they could not find Hanawah, for he had ascended into the heavens. Although they knew that he was going to be taken up, they were still searching for him, just like Aliyah and the sons of the prophets were still insistent on searching for Aliyah, even though they prophesied to Yasharaal that he was going to be taken away from him by Yahuwah. Excuse me. Just like the account of Aliyah's ascension, this account of Hanawah's ascension is very similar. They were witnesses to these 2 men's ascension into the heavens, and the knowledge of their leaving was made known to them. It was not a mystery to them. They knew it, and they were expecting it to happen. In the case of Hanawah, there were more people who were with him as he reigned like a king over his people, and he was also a prophet. Aliyah was also a prophet, but it was only Yasharaal, who is Elisha, who actually witnessed his ascension. However, the sons of the prophets knew that he was going to be taken and alerted Yasharaal to this fact. Aliyah and Hanawah were made well aware that they were going to be taken into the heavens, and they were expecting it, just like we need to be expecting it to happen to us. When we purpose in our hearts that this is the way how we are going to leave this earth, it will not be an impossible thing when it happens. And we will see it when it happens, and we will know it when it happens. But if you say in your heart, oh, this thing will never happen, this thing is impossible to happen, it can't happen, because I've never seen anything like this before. That's doubt entering into your heart. And doubt does not come from the Most High. It comes from Satan. And doubt makes you a double-minded man. You're double-minded. And you become unstable in all your ways. But he wants us to stand on his faith, believing in him and trusting in him. Just like our forefather Abraham. He was called the father of faith for not for any reason except the fact that he was a faithful man to Yahuwah. He believed it, and it was accounted to him or accredited to him as righteousness. He believed every word that came out of the Father's mouth, and he trusted him. So that when he said, take your son up to the mountain and sacrifice him, he said, yes, I will go. That's the kind of faith that the Father wants us to have. And if we have a hard time believing these little things, we will not be able to accept the big things. Right? This is something that has happened before. This is nothing impossible. Moving on, we will discuss where in the heavens Elohim took Hanawat and Alayah and why he took them there to that part of the heavens. We will also take a brief look at the 7 levels of the heavens so that you can understand what is kept on each level, but more about that later. Hanawat was taken up to the heavens in a swinging, meaning flying, chariot of fire with horses of fire in a whirlwind. Notice that there was snow where the chariot picked up Hanawat, showing you that this was a different kind of fire. So whether it was wintertime this happened, or whether the snow was the residue of the fiery chariots, doesn't really matter. What we need to see here is when you see these chariots of fire, there is not really fire that is burning these chariots. This is the glory of the Most High that appears like fire, because the snow didn't melt. The snow did not melt as there was no heat involved in this type of fire. It was in fact the glory of Yahuwah that displayed itself like fire. We've seen that throughout the scriptures. Just like the burning bush that Masha saw on Mount Horeb, there was a bush, there was a fire, but the bush was not actually burning. You've heard about these chariots in the taking up of Elijah in the part 1. Here is another book in the Apocrypha that describes Hanawat's ascension and where he was taken. So now you're going to see where he was actually taken, and that's where Aliyah is also. The second book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 22, verse 1 to 9. And let me explain. Hawa is the correct name for Eve. Eve is the queen of heaven. That's a pagan goddess. The correct name for Adam's wife is Hawa. So it's the book of Adam, second book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 22, verse 1 to 9. Hanawa kept the commandment of Yarad, this is Jared, his father, and continued to minister in the cave. Now, if you read the first book of Adam and Hawa, you will know that Adam and Hawa, after they were cast out of the garden, the Most High gave them a second sanctuary, a small sanctuary where they can live and worship. It was called the Cave of Treasures, and that's where they raised their children. And that's where they all worshipped. Verse 2, many wonders happened to this man Hanawah, and he also wrote a celebrated book. But those wonders may not be told in this place. Then after this, the children of Sawath, which is Seth, as well as their children and their wives, went astray and fell. And when Hanawah, Mathawashala, which is Methuselah, Lamech, which is Lamech, and Nach, which is Noah, saw them, their hearts suffered because of their fall, which filled them with doubt and unbelief. Then they wept and sought of Elohim of mercy to preserve them and to bring them out of that wicked generation. So let me give you a little bit of a background history to what happened to the sons of the children of Sawat. They were all living on the mountains. Adam, Hawa, and Sawath, and then their children that were born to them. The children of Cain lived in the valley below, and that's where they were living with the fallen angels, and they were, having sex with the fallen angels and producing giants. But the angels also too were teaching them all manner of, putting on makeup and creating weapons and teaching them how to kill and all anything that was wicked. They taught them, right? They taught them seductive music, seductive dancing, and the children of Sawath started to hear the music and was lured to look down the mountain, and they saw them having their revelries. You know how it is, with like the festivals, people all dancing and carrying on and screaming and shouting, and it sounds like they're having a good time. The sons of Sawath, the children of Sawath, were drawn down to the mountain, although they were warned, do not go down this mountain. Once you go down into the valley, you cannot come back up. But they just wanted to go and take a peek. And when they went down there and they saw actually what was taking place, they were appalled. They were so appalled they tried to get back up the mountain, but the way was blocked. They were warned not to go down in the first place. And once they went down the mountain, they could not come back up. So they end up staying down there, either taking part with their revelries and whatever else they were doing, or they were killed. And this is where I'm going to pick up here from verse 4. Hanawah continued in his ministry before Yahuwah 385 years highlighted, because it could not be 385 because he was taken up when he was 365 years old. So this is there's always something off with these numbers in these books. Even in the scriptures, even in the Bible, they change the names, they change the names of the festivals. They change it. They're the ones who did it. This is not an error because the word was translated from one person to another. This was purposely done. It was all purposely done so that you will want to throw out the baby with the bathwater. Oh, they said 385 years. You know what? I don't even want to read any more of this. No, you have to learn to sift and figure out what is truth and what is a lie, right? It's like that in the scriptures as well. You have to study with the Ruach HaKodesh. Let him guide you to his truth. So you can discount the 300, the part that says 85 years, because we know from the scriptures he was taken up when he was 365 years, not 385 years. And it could be an error by the writer of this particular apocrypha as well. We don't know. And it really doesn't matter because we already know what the truth is. And at the time of that, and at the end of that time, he became aware through the grace of Elohim that Elohim intended to remove him from the earth. He then said to his son, "O my son, I know that Elohim intends to bring the waters of the flood on the earth and destroy his creation. And you are the last rulers over the people on this mountain. And I know that not one woman will be left for you to have children on this holy mountain. Now one of you will rule over the children of this people. No great number of you will be left on this mountain." And that's not a lie. That's truth. Because when the flood came, at the time of Noah, it was only him and his sons and their wives. Everyone else they were all gone. Hanawah also said to them, "Watch over your souls and hold tight to your fear of Elohim in your service to him, and worship him in righteous faith, and serve him in righteousness, innocence, and judgment. Worship him in repentance and purity." When Hanawah had ended his commandments to them, Elohim transported him from that mountain to the land of life, to the mansions of the righteous and of the chosen ones. And we're going to come back to the mansions, which is the abode of paradise of joy in light that reaches up to the heavens. It is the light that is beyond the light of this world. It is the light of Allah Hayam that fills the whole world, and no place can contain it. Hanawat was in the light of Allah Hayam, and because of this, he found himself out of the grasp of death until Allah Hayam would have him die. So I have that highlighted as well. Hanawat did not see death as he was taken up into the heavens alive by a chariot of fire, by chariots of fire actually. The last sentence above that says, until Allah Hayam would have him die. Could this statement lead us to the fact that Hanawat is one of the two witnesses spoken of Yahuwah, which is John, in the book of Revelation 11:3, chapter 11, verse 3? We know that Aliyah is one of the witnesses, but it has been long debated that the second witness could possibly be Masha, Moses. Here, the writer of this apocryphal book, and I'm not talking about the modern writer, I'm talking about the original writer, could be alluding that it will be Hanawat and not Masha. I strongly believe it is going to be Hanawat and Aliyah. When Hanawat was taken into the heavens, he was transformed. His outer man was redressed in a heavenly garment to fulfill his role, his purpose in the heavens. The angel had told Hanawat that he was going to be brought to the heavens to rule over the angels like he was the ruler over men on the earth. This is not far-fetched to believe because Adam ruled over the angels. Yes, he did. Before he transgressed, and now that Hanawat was redressed in his heavenly garment, he has now taken the place of Adam. Now, let me just stop there for a minute. When we're taken up to the heavens, we're not going to be clothed in our earthly garments anymore. No, we're not. We're all going to be redressed in our heavenly garments. And we'll see, and I'll talk more about this later on. First book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 36, verse 5. At first, angels trembled at the presence of Adam and were afraid of him. Now Adam trembled before the angels and was afraid of them. Before the fall, Adam and Hawa were light and dressed in garments of light, which were emitted from within them. So they, because they were created in the image of Allah Hayam, who is light. They were created with that same light. So as they were in the image of Allah Hayam. This ranked them higher than the angels. Yes, they did. And caused the angels to tremble in their presence because the angels saw the image of Allah Hayam in these two people. And the angels tremble in the presence of Allah Hayam. After Adam and Hawa lost their light due to their transgression, they were then ranked lower than the angels, which made them tremble at the sight of the holy angels of Allah Hayam, because now the angels are above them. They are now ranked higher than them. Therefore, when Hanawat received his garment of light, he took the place of Adam, and he is now ranked higher than the angels, so now he can rule over the angels. But what angels are he going to rule over? We're going to see pretty soon who these angels are going to be. Oborai, which is the book of Hebrews, chapter 2, verse 9. But we see Yahuwah, who was made a little lower than the angels for the suffering of death, crowned with glory and honor, that he, by the grace of Allah Hayam, should taste death for every man. So when Yahuwah Hamashiach, our Savior, our Messiah, when he came in the flesh and he walked this earth as a man, he was made a little lower in rank than the angels, because this flesh makes us lower than angels. But he did it so that he could taste death for every man. He came to die for our sins. Second Hanawak, which is the second book of Hanawak, chapter 22, verse 8 and 9. And Yahuwah said to Mayakaal, which is the angel, the archangel Michael, go and take Hanawak and remove his earthly garments and anoint him with my sweet ointment and put him into the garments of my glory. And Mayakaal did as Yahuwah told him. He anointed me and dressed me, and the appearance of that anointment is more than the great light. And his ointment is like sweet dew, and it smelled mild, shining like the sun's ray. And I looked at myself, and I was transformed into one of his glorious ones. The book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 51. I believe this is the first book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 51, verse 5. Then the word of Elohim came to Adam and Hawa and said to them, this is he, speaking of Satan, who was hidden in the serpent, who deceived you and stripped you from your garment of light and glory. So when Adam and Hawa transgressed the one commandment that Yahuwah gave to them in the Garden of Odan, telling them not to eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they went ahead and they did it, they lost their light. They lost the glory that they were dressed in. They lost the glory and the light that was in them. Hanawat was transformed wearing the glory that Adam and Hawa wore and lost. Similarly, we too will receive the same garments of light. Therefore, we will not be in need of clothing or any tacklings to take with us. So, people are like, oh, yes, just pack a bug-out bag because we're going to go into the wilderness or we're going to go this place. No, we don't need anything, just the clothes on our backs. That's it. Nothing else. Elohim has all that we need waiting for us. Excuse me. There are reasons why Hanawat and Aliyah were taken up, which I will discuss with you later on. So let us recap what happened to Aliyah when he was taken up in fiery chariot. So I want to refresh your memory what happened in part 1. 2 Kings 2, verses 11 and 12. And it came to pass, as they went on and talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire and horses of fire and parted them asunder. And Aliyah went up by a whirlwind into the heavens. And Yasharaal, which is Elisha, saw it, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Yasharaal and the horsemen. Yasharaal saw when Aliyah, so it's Elisha, saw when Elijah was taken up and made a declaration calling it the chariot of Yasharaal and the horsemen, meaning the angels. The horsemen are the angels. Notice that he said the chariot of Yasharaal and not the chariot of Elohim. It's still his. And we're going to see in other scriptures that they're called the chariots of Elohim, showing us that this is not an unusual mode of transportation for Yasharaal to get into heaven then, right? And according to the witness of our forefathers in their spiritual songs, it will be the same for us today. This is how we're going to get up to the heavens. This is how we're going to escape the tribulation here on this earth. We have the church folks talking about a rapture, how they're going to escape in a twinkling of an eye, but this is how we are going to leave this earth, and we're going to get to that pretty soon. History and knowledge have been handed down from generation to generation in those days. That's how people in those days, our forefathers, even all the way from Adam, he passed his knowledge to Sawath, his son, and then Sawath passed it on to his sons, and so on and so forth. All this knowledge will be passed along. At some point of time, some of this knowledge was lost, especially when we had gone astray. But in the case of Yasharaal, he would have known about Hanawak. Plus, there were books left. Yes. So Hanwa had left books describing the heavens and telling of the future of the generations of Yasharaal. Yasharaal would have known something of the chariots of fire because of knowledge that was passed on to him. That's how we were back in those days. Knowledge was passed along from generation to generation, father to son, father to daughter, and then they pass it on to their children. He would have heard of Hanawat's ascension, as he did not die, but was taken into the heavens by the chariots of fire. Yasharaal cried out when he saw the chariot because of him, witnessing this phenomenal event. The anointing of Yah was passed on to him in a double portion. Yasharaal also witnessed more chariots of fire later on in his ministry. 2 Malaya Kayam, which is Kings, chapter 6, verse 17. And Yasharaal prayed and said, Yahuwah, I pray to you, open his eyes that he may see. And Yahuwah opened the eyes of the young man, and this is his servant, who witnessed these people in their chariots surrounding. It was an army that surrounded Yasharaal. And Yasharaal was cool as a cucumber. He wasn't worried about anything. And it was his servant that cried out, oh, my master, look what these people, the armies. And Yasharaal prayed and asked the Father, please open his eyes that he may see. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about who? Yasharaal. He saw them. That's why he was cool. He wasn't worried. But the servant, he didn't see because his eyes were closed. So the father had to open his eyes at the request of Yasharaal. And then he saw it and he was like, okay. Salah 68, verse 17. The chariots of Hayam, remember I told you, they're also called the chariots of Hayam, are 20,000, even thousands of angels. Yahuwah is among them as in Sinai, in the holy place. So we know there are chariots. There are chariots with horses. And they have been active on this earth many times. It's just in the last few generations, things have been changed. Things have been changed. Yahuwah has not been showing his power and his might that he showed our forefathers before they came into were enslaved. He was waiting for this generation. He is waiting for this generation. You see, the problem is, Yahuwah has shown his power and his might through our forefathers' generations, up to 4 generations ago. Okay? Show them his power, his might, his miracles. Sent his son, and his son, Yahuwah, with his spoken word, he had his miracles. He did these miracles. He walked on water. He caused the bread and the fish to multiply to feed the multitude twice. He raised the dead. He healed the sick, the lepers. He opened the blind eyes. These were miracles that Yahuwah Hamashiach did when he was here on the earth as a man. So up to that point of time, our forefathers saw miracles. They saw the miracles. But it was only after, I would say, the 4 generations ago that were enslaved and scattered to the 4 corners of the earth that the miracles stopped. Now, let me rephrase that, because there are miracles where the impossible comes to pass, and then there are miracles where Okay, yeah, I know for sure the Father did this for me, right? The miracles that were the ones that were impossible, like raising the dead, opening the blind eyes, the dumb speaking. People would say, well, those kind of things still happen a little bit here and there. Yes, I believe they were still happening here and there, but not at the great volume that our forefathers had witnessed. There was a great outpouring of the Spirit in those days. And then it kind of, dwindled down to just a drip here, drip there. But the Father has promised that in this generation, where the darkness is going to be so dark, and the evil and the wickedness is going to be so bad, that He is going to pour out His Spirit once again. And we're going to start seeing these miracles once again. Yes, we will. And I believe the chariots of fire are part of those miracles. And I believe that it's going to escalate from there. Where the earth is going to see more and more of the miracle. Let me say this. Not the earth, but Yasharaal will see miracles on their behalf. Because the rest of the earth is going to be under judgment. But only the righteous remnant will witness the awesome miracles of Allahayam once again. So let me move on. Now it can be seen that 2 men were taken up in chariots of fire with horses of fire and angels in a whirlwind. These 2 events present to us as witnesses that there will be a 3rd event taking place in this world to remove the righteous remnant of Yasharaal. Now, let me define which part of Yasharaal. Speaking specifically of the southern kingdom. Yes, not everyone is going to be taken up in these chariots. Only the southern kingdom of Yahuwah. And we're going to be taken off this earth to a place of refuge and safety. Although I am not a person who believes in the rapture, I believe that the rapture theory was created by the Catholic Church to either cause people to believe in a lie, or to those who have been awakened to the truth to toss that theory out completely. Right? So let's look at these 2 theories. Actually, no. One is a theory and the other one is a fact. Okay? Many church folks believe that they will be raptured, taken up in the clouds to meet Hamashiach in the air. We don't have to do anything. We just got to go to church on Sunday and raise our hands and say hallelujah, and that's it. We're going to be taken up in the air. There are several issues with this theory. Several things wrong with this. Hamashiach is returning only one more time, and that is to establish his millennial reign on the earth. If anyone believes that he is coming again in the clouds to receive people, the church, right? Then it means he'll be returning to the earth 3 times instead of the 2 spoken of in the scriptures. So then the scriptures got to be wrong. Hamashiach came to the earth as a man. He died and rose again and is in heaven with Abba. That was the first time he was here on the earth. His next return is, as the scriptures said, to establish his millennial reign. The next issue is that the rapture theory is only for the church, meaning all the peoples in the earth except Yasharaal. But all the Gentiles, all the other nations and the peoples will be raptured together. Oh, we're going to be stuck here on the earth so that we are the ones that are going to have to endure the tribulation. This is another false ideology, as salvation is available only for Yasharaal. He said salvation is for Yahuwah. Did he not say that to the woman at the well, the Samaritan woman? And not the Gentiles. Salvation is not meant for the Gentiles. For anyone who believes otherwise, do not understand the scriptures, and to think that the Gentiles who are not awakened to the truth about who they really are, can they easily escape the coming judgments on this earth? Remember, many of these same Gentiles are the offspring of those that enslaved our forefathers, that treated them worse than animals. Yasharaal had to endure tribulation as a form of judgment for their disobedience. This was inclusive to their distant offspring, who is today's generation. If we all had to face judgment, and we're the chosen people, how is it possible for the Gentile nations and their generations today escape judgment? Everyone will be judged. Everyone have to face the judge. And this is the time for the southern kingdom to endure. Actually, our curses have come to an end. Our 400-year prophecy that was given to Abraham has come to an end. We have fulfilled our curses, our punishment, our judgment. Is he going to keep us here for more? He is not like that. When he speaks a word, it does not return to him void. Every word that comes out of his mouth must accomplish the thing that he sent it forth to accomplish. So when our 400 years are up, it's done. He's not going to bring more on us. He is a righteous judge. Righteous in all his ways. And if we had to endure, this generation that's living today had to endure what our forefathers did 400 years ago, do you actually think that the Gentiles that are living today, that they are the offspring of our slave masters, do you think they're going to get off scot-free? No, thank you. They're going to get what's coming to them. And there's another reason why too, and I'll discuss that later. They're not the chosen people. No, they're not. There's only one chosen people. That's Yasharaal, made up of two kingdoms right now. Two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. But they're all still Yasharaal. They are not the chosen people. The Gentiles are not the chosen people. Neither do they truly know and worship Allah. That's another thing. This is another problem with the rapture and them going up to heaven. They worship false deities and are involved in pagan rituals that transgress the laws and commandments of Allah. Because they say the laws, we're no longer on the law, we're on the grace. And besides, the laws were made for the Jewish people, for the Jews. The commandments were made for the Jews. Paul says this and Paul says that. And they call on this Jesus Christ, and they use the L word, the Lord, the God. These are all pagan gods. If we were punished because our forefathers worshiped pagan gods instead of Allah, do you think that he is going to excuse them because of their ignorance? Right? Do you think he's going to excuse them? No, he's not. The Father said he gave them those gods so that they can move away from him. He doesn't want them. He says it in the scriptures. He said he gave them the sun, the moon, and the stars to worship. Because he doesn't want them. There's a few that he will allow into the kingdom at the end of the age, but all of them will remain here to face judgment because they need to be sifted. Just like how we were sifted to get rid of the rebels. Do you think all of the southern kingdom is going up in chariots? He said he only has 20,000 chariots. Do the math. Not all of the southern kingdom is coming because we have many rebels amongst us. Many who are still pagan worshippers, thinking that by their haplogroup, that's sufficient to get them into the kingdom. They are more concerned about their blood type than anything else. They're not worshiping the Most High. They're not observing His commandments. They're not walking in His commandments. But hey, you know what? I have the right haplogroup, so I'm good. A lot of these people are going to get the biggest surprise of their life when this thing happens. And it's going to happen very soon. Very, very, very soon. They worship false deities and are involved in pagan rituals that transgress the laws and commandments of Allah. He does not like it when we break His laws and His commandments. Because if we're not worshiping Him, we're worshiping Satan. We can't worship both. You have to choose which one you want to worship. So when you start worshiping other deities, calling on other names, you're off His chart. He may warn you if He wants you. If there's a chance for you to come back. But if he already knows what's in your heart. He already knows who belongs to Him. And He's not going to fight with someone to get them over on His side because He doesn't need a multitude. That's the thing about the Father. He does not need a multitude. He's never ever needed a multitude to accomplish His purpose and His plans. He took one man. He called him the great. He chose a great from a cluster, one man named Abraham, and He made him a multitude. He took 70 souls that were in Goshen, and He made them a multitude. He doesn't need a multitude to accomplish His task. He makes the multitude from very little. He takes the remnant and He's going to make them a multitude again. That's what He said. And there are people out there that thinking, oh, no. The multitudes are coming out. No, they're not. He's not bringing out a multitude anymore. Only a remnant. And it will be the righteous remnant that are walking in His laws and His commandments, His statutes and His judgments, that are obeying His voice, that have allowed Him to circumcise their hearts and their ears so that they can hear, that they have eyes to see and they can understand and perceive, and they have wisdom and knowledge and understanding. That's who He's coming back for. That's who He's sending the chariots for. And like I said, He has 20,000. So do your math. He's not packing those chariots with 10, 20 people. No. All right. We got to get our acts together. The judgments that they will face will give them a choice to repent and turn from their wicked ways, even though they may not survive the judgments. Well, the earth will never be empty of people, so people will survive. And that's the miracle that is going to carry on with other miracles, okay? Nevertheless, they can live again eternally. So the whole idea is you need to repent. These Gentiles need to repent and turn from their wickedness, their wicked ways. Even if they die, they do not die in vain, but they die with the expectation of being raised again and live eternally with Hamashiach. They will be given a portion of our inheritance. He said so. Because they're coming to serve us. That's the reason why they're coming. We used to serve them. No, they're coming in to serve us. Or they can choose to remain in their sins and perish eternally. So they have a choice. They can remain in their sinful ways and perish and be in the lake of fire. That's where they're going to end up. Or they will die and they can be raised again. They have a choice. These other nations and peoples are worshiping a God that looks like them. Here's the reason why they have to go through the judgment. All these nations have to go through this judgment. Because when they look at the gods they serve look like them. Right? How can they worship our Alahayam who looks like us, Negroes? Will they be willing if someone put up an image of Alahayam? Okay, let's say Yahuwah, because he was here and he was seen. And he was shown to be a Negro. Right? He is Negro. Right? With these same people in all these churches, the Catholic Church, the Baptist Church, the whatever churches, will they still want to worship him? What about the other ones that are serving in the synagogue, the Muslims, the different ones, will they want to serve him? No, they will not. Because when they look upon us, the Negroes, we've always been portrayed as slaves. We're not good for anything else but to be a person's slave. Watch any movie and you will see, especially like 20 years back, who was the butler? Who was the maid? We were. That's the mentality that they were painting to the people on the earth. That black people, Negroes, are only good for one thing, and that's slavery or to be a servant. Because they wanted they were setting us up and setting them up at the same time. Because they have a Caucasian looking, Christianity has a Caucasian looking God, a Caucasian looking Messiah. Now, if anyone changed that image that they're so proud of, they will have a heart attack. They will think they will stone you. They can't handle that change. Them worship a Negro Messiah? Hello? They wouldn't even serve a Negro boss. That would be impossible. You have a Negro and you have a Caucasian person be their servant? Huh? No. That you don't see that happening. No. How often would you see that happening? If ever. So these people, because they have the gods in their own image and their own likeness, when they have this rude awakening that the Messiah, Hamashiach, is actually a Negro, a lot of them will be like, huh? What? No, man. Do you think they're going to want to worship him? Do you think they're going to want to submit to him? And especially knowing that they're going to have to come and serve us. Do you think they're going to want to serve us? We were the ones who were serving them. So they got to go through the judgments because he got to sift them and prove to them who he really is and his power and his might. The only way that you could ever have life again, son, is if you worship me. Otherwise, you're doomed for destruction. Not only serve me, but you got to serve my people. Are you willing to do that? Now, I believe that there's a younger generation. There's a handful of them that have awakened, and they've actually confessed that the Negroes are the chosen people. And they're trying to cling to us, either in marriage or friendships, because they're thinking, oh, if I marry this person who's a Negro and have children by them, there's a chance that I can escape the judgment. Right? But you can't cling to us, because you see what happened with the chariot? No, if a person marries outside of their lineage, they're done. You're done. The father's not interested in you. Unless he put away that husband and those children. He's not interested in you. Because he's not going to share his inheritance with a Gentile. Just because you married one. You have disobeyed the law, and that's it. It's either you put them away to preserve your inheritance, or you lose your inheritance. Sorry to burst anyone's balloon, right? But that's the fact. That's the truth. Read it. It's in the scriptures. You cannot marry outside of our lineage. Yes, some people say, okay, well, and I'm going off track a little bit, but I'll come back right now. I'll come back pretty soon, okay? Some will say, yes, during slavery, our foremothers were raped by the slave masters because they wanted to produce more children. More children means more money. You have more hands to work, so the slave master will make more money. Right? I'm a product of that. My great-great-grandmother was raped by the slave master. But I am the fourth generation after that. He says, the forgiven, I don't want to paraphrase, up to the third and fourth generation, that curse is revoked. In other words, I'm going to do a lesson on that. Excuse me. Meaning, say for example today, I married someone outside of my lineage, outside of Yasharaal. Doesn't matter who it is. I don't care who it is. If they're not a part of our people, you have transgressed the law. You've broken the law. So I go ahead and I marry this person. It doesn't matter who this person is. Doesn't matter. I love them and they love me and they respect me and they respect that I am Yahuwah and they want to worship with me. It does not matter. No, it does not. It doesn't matter. Anyway, I'm digressing. We have children. So our children now will be mixed kids. Those children will have to marry into the lineage, right? 2 more times. 3 to 4 more times, I would say. Okay? In order for that curse to be revoked. It is a curse. You've just put a curse on you because you've disobeyed the father. So the children that I produce will have to marry into the lineage. That's first. Then their children have to marry into the lineage. That's the second. Then those children have to marry into the lineage. That's the third. So the product of those children by the third marriage are now, that curse is rolled back. The third and fourth generation. He said, forgiving the iniquity of the fathers to their children to the third and fourth generation, something to that effect. It's not coming back to me. So my children have a curse on them. And I'm part of that curse as long as I remain with them. However, let's go to the other side of the spectrum. I marry outside of my lineage, and my children marry outside of the lineage again, to the third and fourth generation, right? They're done. In fact, they were done from the beginning, but they're so done, you can stick a fork in them, they're done. They're done. Like a turkey, they're done. Okay? It's only when they marry back into the lineage, and that's what happened in my situation. My great-great-grandmother was raped, but her daughter married into the lineage. And then her children married into the lineage, right? That would be my grandfather. Then my mother married into the lineage. And then I'm here, fourth generation later. So my curse has been rolled back since a generation ago. So it would be rolled back since my mother's generation. That's the only time that would work. So if you are today married and he's getting ready to take his people away, you're going to be left behind unless you somehow, you got to put them away. Now you're going to say, well, you're telling me to divorce my husband. I'm not telling you to do anything. I'm just laying the facts out. You make the decision. At the end of the day, you have to make this decision because you're the one that's going to have to stand before the Father and answer for your deeds. You're going to have to answer to him, not me. I'm laying out the facts. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. We have very little time. And I'm not going to try to find an avenue that, okay, well, if they do this and if they do. No. It is cut. It is clear. It is sure. You cannot marry outside of your lineage. These people, a lot of these people were our slave masters. And who weren't our slave masters? Hated us. Why are we marrying people that hated us? Not one of them during our forefathers' time of slavery and being persecuted and beaten and killed and slaughtered. Not one nation, not one race, not one people, no country, no one stood by our side. No one. But that's part of the curse. That's part of the punishment. We deserved it because we had a good life in the promised land. Yes, we did. He provided everything for us, including protection. There was fear from us. All the people around us, all the nations and the tribes and peoples around us were afraid of us because they knew the Elohim that we served is a powerful Elohim, and he protects them. You see, those people there, don't go near those people. Those people got a fire in them. Not only do they have a fire in them, they got a fire around them too. Right? You come close to them, that fire breaks out against you. You can't touch the apple of his eye. We had it good. We had it sweet. We didn't have to do anything. We walked into a land that was already prepared for us. And all he said for us to do is to worship him and him alone. He gave us the laws and the commandments to make sure that you have it clear. You have it. This is what is going to happen if you don't do this. Deuteronomy 28 tells you, or tells us. And Masha told them. And they said, all that the Father said to do, we will do. That's what they said. And then they turn and play the harlot. So now we're under these heavy persecutions. But it was our fault. Now let's move on. Now, will these people willingly submit themselves to him and to us? We have been made to look like we are the barbarians in this world. We've been treated as such by every nation on this earth. Not one of them stood by our side, but this was a part of our curse. Yet, at the same time, this will be the downfall of all nations. Unless they repent and turn to Allah Hayam, who is Negro, by the way. We were created in his image. Why would he create us this way and he looks something different or some way different? Jeremiah 12, that's Jeremiah chapter 12, verse 14 to 17. Thus says Yahuwah against all mine evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Yasharaal to inherit. Everyone wants our land. Everyone. Everyone wants to be Yasharaal, and everyone wants our land. Everyone wants our inheritance. But they didn't want a part of our curses. They didn't want anything to do with our judgments. No, they didn't want anything to do with our persecutions, but they want the sweetness that belongs to us. Can you imagine? Behold, I will pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Yahuwah from among them. And it shall come to pass after that I have plucked them out, I will return and have compassion on them and bring them again, every man to his land. And it shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, to swear by my name. Now he's talking about the other nations. Yahuwah lives as they taught my people. So these people taught his people to swear by Baal. Then shall they be built in the midst of my people. This is his promise. He is faithful to his promises. But if they will not obey, I will utterly pluck up and destroy that nation, says Yahuwah. He said it, not me. Many Gentiles believe in the rapture because they know about the judgments that are coming and they want to escape. All you got to do is read the book of Revelation. If you want to see the judgments that are coming, do you actually think that they want to remain here? No, they do not. So they got to glorify themselves to make themselves think that they're such good and nice people, kind and generous because they come to church every Sunday morning and they put money in the offering and they help in the cookouts and the potluck dinners and so on and so forth. Oh my goodness. No, that's not what it's all about, folks. Not what it's all about. But this is not the plan of Ha'abah, as he will be sending his angels to collect his chosen people from amongst the nations where they were scattered. Yes, he will. And I will make it clear again that only the southern kingdom of Yahuwah will be regathered, and later on the northern kingdom will be regathered as well. There are going to be two different kinds of regathering. And yes, we will eventually go back to our land, but we are being taken away. We are being taken away so that we don't have to endure any more tribulation. But at the time of the millennial reign, we will be back on the earth in our land. But I'm going ahead of myself as usual. But we will not be regathered together, as we are still a divided people. Many people are talking about, we are going to be in the wilderness. The 12 tribes are going to the wilderness together, and this and that, and the ships of Tarshish and the luxury liners are coming for the 12 tribes and taking them to South Africa and then taking them to the wilderness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. These are obviously people that do not understand the scriptures. They do not understand the history. All right. Yasharaal is a divided people. We have the northern kingdom that was scattered since 721 BC, and we have the southern kingdom that was scattered in 70 AD, which we're going to see later on, right? And I keep repeating this in some of my other videos as well, because it needs to be said. We are two kingdoms, and for a while, we were warring against each other. There's enmity between the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. Enmity. We were at war with each other when we were in our land. Okay? And if we were at war with each other then, how much more will we be at war with each other now? When the slave masters came and gathered us up from the west coast of Africa, did any of them come to help us? No. No. None of them came to help us. And as a matter of fact, a lot of them don't even know who they are anyway. There's a few of them that have preserved themselves and they're practicing a form of Judaism. That's still pagan religion, by the way. And yet, they will not reach out and help us because they're like, oh no, you're not us. And that's how we have been for generations. So the 12 tribes are not going to come up together, otherwise we will kill each other. Look at how our people is today, right now. Right now, look at the southern kingdom that's scattered throughout the earth. We can't even come together and agree on one thing. We are fighting amongst each other already. Amongst each other. The southern tribe is already fighting amongst each other. Can you imagine if you bring in the other 9.5 tribes? What a battlefield that would be. No, the Father is smart. He knows. He got to deal with us one kingdom at a time. Right? One kingdom at a time. Starting with the southern kingdom because, and I'll explain in a bit why he started with us first, and then he's going to deal with the northern kingdom last because they were scattered the farthest and the longest, and they're the ones that don't even have the gospel. A lot of them don't know the gospel. The few that are under Christianity, they're still worshiping pagan gods. You're worshiping a Jesus Christ, and he's a pagan god. They're not keeping the commandments. He needs to deal with them and show them the truth before he can bring them out. But as usual, I'm going ahead of myself. So there are two, but we will not be regathered together as we are still a divided people, two kingdoms and two nations, until the time of the millennial reign of Hamashiach. Then he will bring us all together as one kingdom and one nation under his reign in his hand. Remember, Ezekiel had the two sticks in his hand. One is the northern kingdom, the other one is the southern kingdom, and he puts them in his hand to make one stick, which will be one kingdom. So the two kingdoms will become one kingdom in the hand of Hamashiach, and only then will, by that time, I would say, that the southern kingdom, only the righteous remnant will be taken up, the ones that see the light, and the northern kingdom, the same thing as well. Only the righteous remnant will make it into the land because they've seen the light. So they have peace in their hearts. So when we have peace in our hearts and we're observing the commandments and loving one another, now the Father has material to work with to bring us back together and make us one again. Can't happen before. Can't happen before that. I'm sorry. 2, the rapture theory was stolen from the truth that we will be taken out of here, but not in the way in which the rapture describes it. So you see, these people know that this is going to happen. So they got to try to create some sort of scenario, some sort of story, right? To make it look like it's something unbelievable, or if it's believable, the wrong people believe it, right? But yet they change it enough to make it seem like, okay, well, that I don't know if that could ever happen. But all in all, the rapture was taken from the chariots, the coming chariots. All right, because they know people will be leaving this land and going up to the heavens, and that's what the rapture is: people leaving and going up in the rapture, in the heavens. However, in the rapture, people are just going to vanish, leaving their clothes behind. In the twinkling of an eye, they're gone. Whereas in the rapture, in the chariots, people will be seen in a chariot of fire and with horses of fire, with horsemen, okay, going up to the heavens in a whirlwind. And we'll still be wearing clothes. Yes, we will. So that's the big difference between the two. But the similarity is that people leave the earth and go to heaven. The first instance in the rapture, they say that it's only Christians or people from the churches around the world will be taken up to the heavens, whereas in the chariots, only the southern kingdom, the righteous remnant, will be taken up. And that's the comparison there. We will be taken by the chariots of fire with horses of fire in a whirlwind, just like Hanawah and Aliyah. Because the chariots may sound a lot like the rapture, many will dismiss this as another theory and not the truth. It has always been the agenda of the Catholic Church to plant many lies quoted in a little truth for it to be palatable and acceptable. Or take the truth and quote it in many layers of lies to get us to dismiss it, like throwing out the baby with the bathwater. I mean, this sounds too much like the rapture, so no, I don't believe in the rapture, so let me just toss it out, right? Like the lie, it sounds too much like the lie being preached, so therefore it is a lie, right? The difference between the rapture and the taking up of the saints, Yahuwah, the saints Yahuwah in the chariots, is this: the chariots have been seen, all right? This has been done already, and actually twice, whereas the rapture has never been done before, and it was never witnessed at any point in time. And people choose to believe in the rapture. The rapture calls for Hamashiach to return so that the people will meet him in the clouds, whereas the chariots are coming with angels to collect us and take us to him. The rapture is only for the Gentiles in the churches and excludes Yasharaal, whereas the chariots are coming only for Yasharaal and speaking specifically of the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom will have to endure until the time of the 7 vials. They have to remain here on the earth. They have to go through their persecution, just like we did. They have to go through the judgments because they need to be sifted. They need to be awakened, and they need to make some serious choices here. Am I going to continue worshiping my pagan gods, even though they're doing nothing to help me in this terrible situation that we're in right now? Or do I return to the Father? I will explain more later on. Okay? Now, armed with scriptures, witnesses, and events, which is theory and which is truth? Yes, both takes us to heaven, to the heavens, but the information regarding the rapture is way off. That's the only similarity is people leaving the earth and going to the heavens. If anyone dismisses this theory, then they will have a problem with the truth about the chariots, unless they are fully awakened, that is. So when you're awakened, you start to see the things, even the theories and the doctrines and the stuff, you start to look at them in a different light, because now the Ruach HaKodesh will teach you, like, okay, don't throw this out completely, because see this for what it is. If you can see it for what it is, then you can put it aside, but don't throw it out. You know, the rapture, the people are talking about this rapture, and they're talking about it more and more and more. And if you doubt me, just type in rapture in YouTube, and you see how many people are talking about rapture, right? They're waiting for this rapture. And if you notice the color of their skin, and none of them, actually, that's not true. There's at least one person that I've seen that looks Negro to me. But all the others are Caucasian, waiting for this rapture to come and take them off this earth, because they're such righteous people. Right? It is not far-fetched, right? It is a reality. Don't let Satan pull the wool over your eyes and harden your hearts. This is why he did this, right? Talking about this rapture, you're going to be up in the twinkle in the eye and going to meet the Lord in the air, and right? And then you like, well, I don't believe in no rapture, so therefore, chariots, flying chariot. No, I can't believe in that either. It sounds too much like the rapture. You know what? You got to realize that Satan is a copycat, and he's a bad copycat at that. And not only is he a bad copycat, but he contaminates what he copies. That's why you need the Ruach HaKodesh to help you to discern the truth even inside the lie, because he's taken a lot of the truth and he's coated it with many layers of lies. And you need the expertise, the surgical expertise of the Ruach HaKodesh to cut through those lies, to get to the heart of the matter, to get to the truth. He doesn't want us to know the truth because the truth sets us free. He wants us always to be in bondage to him, in sin. Because once we are in sin, believing the lies, because that's what lies do, we're in bondage to him. When we start believing the truth, we're in the light. And he can't reach us. He can't touch us. These things that I speak about were known by our forefathers. But our history and our books have been stolen, destroyed, or changed along with stripping us of our language, our culture, and our worship of Allah. This was done due to the rebellion of our forefathers that chose to worship other gods and transgressing the laws and commandments of Allah. And this is our punishment. Like I said before, this is our punishment. We have to graciously accept it, repent, and move on. And today we are discovering the truth about who we really are and trying to find the path of eternal life. Thankfully, we have Ruach HaKodesh, which is the Holy Spirit, who is our comforter and our guide to all truth. We couldn't make it without him. We couldn't make it without Hamashiach and what he did for us. So the Father, he has paved the way for us to come back home. We just need to believe. That's all we need to do. Believe. Unfortunately, many of our brethren have chosen the way of lies, worshiping other gods just like our forefathers before us, because we don't learn our lesson. No, we don't. We do the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. Seriously, that's the definition of insanity. We see our forefathers being punished time and time and time and again for worshiping other gods, and we still are insisting on worshiping other gods. Oh, well, when we get into the wilderness, then he'll tell us who his real name is and this and that. And when in fact, all you have to do is ask him. Ask him, and he will tell you. He will tell you the truth. He will guide you into all truth. That's what the Ruach HaKodesh is there for, to guide us into all truth. And there's no wilderness for the southern kingdom, by the way. I've said this before. The wilderness is only meant for the northern kingdom. So if you're sitting back waiting for a wilderness experience in order to get your act together, you'll be waiting in vain, and you may also perish as well. Meaning going to hell. This is our one chance. This is a one-time chance for us to get out of here. One chance. That's why the Father, he's given us everything we need. He's given us prophecies. He's given us his Son. He's given us his Ruach HaKodesh. He's given us all that he can give us. What more can he give? There's nothing more he can give. So if at this point in time you're still walking in disobedience, waiting for the wilderness to get your act together, and you're from the southern kingdom, you're going to get a rude awakening. A rude awakening. Why was Hanawak and Aliyah taken off the earth and carried into the heavens? To answer that question, we have to look at the 7 levels of heaven to understand what is there. Then we will know why they were taken and where in the heavens. First heaven is what you see with your eyes, which is the natural, where the sun, the moon, and the stars and the clouds are located. This is under the dome, right? This portion of the heavens is beneath the dome. We have a dome above us. Folks, if you believe that we're living on a spinning ball in the middle of a universe, you need to wake up. The earth is the center of the world. And it's covered by a dome, and it's stationary too. It doesn't move. It's the sun that moves over us and under us, over us and under us. The same thing with the moon and the stars. They circulate over and around us, underneath the dome. Our forefathers knew this. That's why they spoke about the 4 corners of the earth. Does a spinning ball have corners? Seriously. That's a lesson for some other time, but it's not even relevant, because if at this point of time you believe that we're sitting on a ball that's spinning at 1100 miles per hour, but yet when you look outside still looks stationary, and the only thing that moves is the sun. If you doubt me, stand outside and watch the shadows move. Is the earth moving? No, it's the sun that is moving. The sun does not remain in the same position every day. It doesn't even remain in the same position every month. It has 6 doors that it comes out and it rises from and it sets in. And that's going way off topic, but you got to know the truth. We've been indoctrinated in lies in schools, right? Telling you that we're sitting on a spinning ball. All right? So we have a dome that is over us, a dome that the wicked people have been trying to penetrate for many generations, and talking about, oh, we want to go to space to see if we find any other planets that's habitable, that we can, migrate there. No, that's not what they're trying to do. They're trying to break through the dome. And the sun is not millions of miles away. The sun is under the dome. And the dome is not that high. The ceiling for the dome is not high. And if you doubt me, watch when they release any rocket to go up to space, how that rocket curves. You know where it's curving and going? Into the sea. There's no one in that rocket. Not a person, not a soul in that rocket. They've been trying to penetrate that dome, but the Most High, He veers it, and it goes into the sea. That's why you have the Bermuda Triangle, and they have all these stupid myths about the Bermuda Triangle, telling you, oh, don't go through that area, because they don't want you to see all the rockets that are dumped there. All right? These people are liars. They've been lying to us for generations, and we've been sucking it up like a sponge and not questioning anything that they do. All those videos that you see people floating around in a rocket ship, those are Hollywood movies. People have debunked them. If you doubt me, go and check out some of those videos. Right? They've been debunked. Those people never left and went anywhere. They're in a Hollywood studio. Moving on. Second heaven is outside the dome. Just outside the dome. And this is where Satan and his fallen angels and demons dwell. Because they're spiritual beings. And the second level of the heavens is where they live, right? So the first heaven, which is what we see with our eyes, is physical. The second heaven is spiritual. And they operate from this realm and can only enter into our physical realm with our permission or by invitation through witchcraft, necromancy, and the invoking of evil spirits. So when you call on the names of these evil spirits, and you tell them to come into your heart, come into my life. By the way, Shekinah glory, that's another demon. That's a demon. So when you start preaching, calling on this Shekinah glory to come and enter into you, you're inviting devils to come into you. And that's why you see all these church folks with all these problems and sicknesses and diseases and problems in their marriages and problems with their children, problems all the way around them. And then they wonder how come Jesus isn't helping them. Some of them become bitter and they leave and they don't want to become a part of the church anymore. All these different problems because you're invoking devils. You're inviting the devil in by calling on these names. Even by watching certain movies, certain shows, listening to secular music, because those secular music also have demonic portals attached to them, that when you start to listen to them, you're inviting them into your realm. There's certain shows that you watch, in fact, most Hollywood movies that you watch have demonic portals attached to them. And that's how they come into your realm. And that's why you have so many problems, so many issues, and on top of that, if you are a believer, a lot of believers don't pray. They don't pray. You want to stop them devils from coming in. You've created a portal, and they have free entrance into your life, and not just one. We're talking about thousands coming in, and they're taking turns whooping you, and you can't seem to get over whatever situation or situations. As soon as one finishes, another one starts, and you wonder why. Well, check what you're watching, check what you're listening to, check what you're reading, and check what you're not doing. You're not praying, you're not worshiping, you're not studying, you're not fasting. All these things closes the portals and kick them out of your realm. And sometimes if you pray, you may pray once, but you go listen to 10 secular songs and then watch a stupid movie, inviting more devils in. That's why you can't get a breakthrough. You want a breakthrough? Seal off the portals. Stop watching stupid movies. Stop listening to stupid secular music. And let me explain, some of the Christian music are also secular music. So it's better to just go to the book of Psalms and make your own music. That's what I do. I used to listen to Christian music until the Father said, I want you to stop listening to this music. For some reason, the music will play over and over and over in my head. I'm like, how come I can't stop this music from playing in my head? He said, because even Christian music, you don't know the lifestyle of the person who claims to be singing that music. Right? And thanks be to the Most High that He protects me. And He tells me, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what I want you, where I want you to go. This is what I want you to read. Right? This is what I want you to see. This is what I want you to understand. You need to have a close relationship with Him so that He can tell you what it is you need to do. It's so easy to shut these things off. But if you don't shut off the entrance, the portals, by cutting off the movies, the videos, the music, the secular music. Oh, I like my music. I like Nicki Minaj. I like this person. I like that person. And it makes me so happy. Okay, that's exactly what the devil wants. Right? Because if you understand what is in that music, you will be repulsed. But I don't want to get into all that right now because it's a bit off topic. Right? Way off topic actually. But stop invoking devils in your life. The only way he can come in is if he's invited. If you willingly open the door and say, come in. Right? And then people want to blame the Father and say he's not helping me, he's not doing anything for me, so I don't want to believe in him anymore, blah, 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 blah. It's not the Father, it's you that's doing it. You that's doing it. Father's been warning us. Go pick up the Bible and read. How many of you read your Bible on a daily basis? How many of you sit down and do devotions, do Bible studies, right? You spend more time on your phones, your social media than you do anything else. And that's why the devil has a hold on you. Okay, let's move on now. Third heaven is where the Garden of Odan is. Third heaven, also known as paradise, also known as Sayawan, also known as the sanctuary, also known as the Holy of Holies, also known as the city of Al-Hayam, and that's where it's located. This is the same Garden of Odan where Adam and Hawa resided before they transgressed. This is where he's taken us. That's where Hanawak and Alaya is. So second book of Hanawak, chapter 8, verse 1 to 10. And those men took me from there and led me to the third heaven and placed me there. I looked down and saw that this place produces, and that it was so good that such as has never been before. And I saw all the sweet flowering trees, and I saw their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and I saw all the foods that came from them, and that the food was bubbling with fragrant vapors. And in the middle of the trees was the tree of life, in that place where Al-Hayam rests, where he goes up into paradise. Now, I should have put that in little highlights there, because that the wording of that I don't like, that he goes up from where, right? Where does he should be coming down from seventh heaven, because that's where the throne room is, right? So these are some of the discrepancies that I find in some of these writings, and I take it with a pinch of salt. But I don't throw everything out just because of that small discrepancy. And this tree is of indescribable goodness and fragrance, and this is the tree of life, and adorned more than anything existing. And all sides of its form were golden and brilliant red and fire-like, and it was completely covered, and it produced all fruits. Its roots is in the garden at the earth's end, and paradise resides between the spiritual and physical. And I have that verse 5 highlighted. And also its root is in the garden at the earth's end. So there's an ending to the earth. So the earth cannot be a ball. So I believe that's where the dome touches the earth, at the edge, where everything converges there. But no one can go there, even though they don't want us. And let me say this. Every country of the world have signed a pact, signed a contract with each other, that no one is allowed, unless you're military or someone from the government or one of the alphabet bureaus, only they are allowed to go to certain areas, and they call it Antarctica, right? Because they don't want us to know the real truth. Because if anyone goes there, they're going to see that the earth is not a ball. But they themselves can't go beyond a certain point as well. The Father made sure of that. Because if they were able to go beyond that point, they'd be able to penetrate the dome at that corner. So that's why they go up, right? They can't go in. They can only go as far as the Father would allow them to go. Praises to the Most High. And then and paradise resides between spiritual and physical. So paradise is both physical and spiritual, right? And the reason that is because the Garden of Odan was on the earth before it was taken up. And Adam and Hawa were both physical and spiritual until the light that was in them was shut off because of their transgression. Then they became physical, right? And the reason why that is because he wants this tabernacle, this sanctuary. This is the original sanctuary that he showed Abraham. He showed it to Adam, because Adam was there in the garden. He showed it to Abraham, and he showed it to Masha. And that's how Masha got he was able to make a copy. All right? And a copy of the tabernacle and its furnitures, and the different furnitures inside the tabernacle, because it was shown to him. All right? And it will remain spiritual and physical because it's going to come back again. Yes, it will. He had to take it up. And he started taking it up off the earth when Adam transgressed. And by the time they had their son Salah, then it moved off the earth. I think we're going to read some scriptures about that soon. And then before the flood began, it was gone. He took it completely away. And there was a reason why he wanted to take it, because the angels, the fallen angels, they would have tried to get into that garden again. He didn't want them in that garden. This is his sanctuary. He has to preserve it. He has to protect it. He has to keep it away from them. Right? So he took it off the earth, because when they started multiplying, the giants, they were also doing some inventions. They were building spacecrafts and all kind of traveling things. Where do you think they were traveling to? Where do you think they were going? Trying to penetrate and get into the Garden of Eden. Right? So he took it off the earth, and he destroyed the whole earth and destroyed them and their inventions. They were mixing and splicing and doing the DNA thing, animal, bird, fish, and some of their bloodline. And that's why they had gigantic animals on the earth, and then everything became violent, and they were eating one another. Oh, it was a horrible time. Lots of killing, lots of bloodshed. And that's why he sent the flood. Anyways, again, I've digressed. Verse 6. And 2 springs come out, which send forth honey and milk, that's sweetness and richness. And the springs send forth oil and wine, and they separate into 4 parts and flow quietly around and go down into the paradise of Odan, between the mutable, meaning the changeable, and the eternal. And there they go forth along the earth, which is the ground, and have a circular flow, even as other elements. And there is no unfruitful tree there, and every place is exalted. Now I have verse 9 highlighted. 300 angels, which are very bright, are there to keep the garden. And I believe these are the angels that Yahuwah was called up to the heavens to rule over. These 300 angels. And with incessant swinging, sweet singing, with voices which are never silent, serve Elohim through all the hours of days. And I said, how sweet is this place? And those men said to me, this place, O Yahuwah, this is chapter 9 of the same book, verse 1. This place, O Yahuwah, is prepared for the righteous, who endure all manner of offense, from those that exasperate their souls, who avert their eyes from iniquity, and make righteous judgment, and give bread to the hungering, and cover the naked with clothing, and raise up the fallen, and help injured orphans, and who walk without fault before the face of Elohim, and serve him alone. And for them is prepared this place for an eternal inheritance. This is our inheritance. The Garden of Odan, which is called by a number of other names, as I've mentioned above, is located in third heaven. The description of this level is that it is both spiritual and physical, mutable and everlasting. Therefore, it is a place which is a combination of both the spiritual and physical. It changes meaning mutable and everlasting at the same time. Because the tree of life is there, also the sea of living water is there. And the tree of life is when you eat of that tree, you have eternal life. When you bathe in the sea of living water, it completely makes you pure again. Completely removes everything. You're pure again. This is the same Garden of Odan that was on the earth, but Yahuwah moved it long before the flood. So, yeah. Second book of Adam and Hawa, chapter 11, verse 6 to 10. But Sawath, Seth, and his children did not like mundane work, but set themselves to do heavenly things, because they had no other thought other than praises, worship, and psalms to Allah. Therefore did they at all times hear the voices of angels, praising and glorifying Allah from within the garden. For when they were sent on an errand, or when they were going up to the heavens, right? So they used to hear the angels as they were going up to the heavens, or when they were coming down to the earth to do whatever Allah had sent them to do. Because of their own purity, Sawath and his children heard and saw the angels. The garden was not far above them, only 15 spiritual cubits. 1 spiritual cubit is equal to 3 cubits of man, altogether 45 cubits. So right above their heads, they could see the Garden of Odan. And at a certain point of times, when the wind changed direction, they could also smell it. Sawath and his children lived on the mountain below the garden. So the garden was gradually removed by Allah to its current place, which is in the third heaven. It was long gone when the flood of Noah's time, which is Noah, came. This was to preserve it, as it had the tree of life there and also the sea of living water. It is also the Holy of Holies. This is the resting place of Allah. This is his sanctuary. This is where his original tabernacle is. Right? The tabernacle where he wants to dwell with man. Right? Because you have his throne room where the angels and the elders and the different ones are, and he's there too, but he also has a tabernacle where he wants to dwell with men, with his people, his creation. Book of Jubilees, chapter 8, verse 18. Noach rejoiced that this portion came out for Shem. This is when they were dividing up the land after the flood, and for his sons, right? For Shem and for his sons. And he remembered all that he had spoken with his mouth in prophecy, for he had said, Happy be Yahuwah al-Hayam of Shem, and may Yahuwah dwell with Shem. He knew that the Garden of Odan is the Holy of Holies. That's what it is. It's the holiest of all the places. And the dwelling of Allah, and Mount Sinai, the center of the desert, and Mount Sayawan, which is the center of the navel of the earth. These three were created as holy places facing each other. And I have my own theory about Mount Sinai and Mount Sinai. Well, I know Mount Sayawan isn't here yet, but I also have my theory about Mount Sinai that is not here either. It's also taken. Right? Because these are holy places. And many people are speculating it's in Arabia, in Saudi Arabia, it's in this place, it's in that place. No one knows. They say, okay, we have evidence of this because we have these stones where it looks like it could be an altar. But there were many civilizations that had altars. The Canaanites, they all worshiped gods and they needed altars and they did their sacrifices, right? They have that. Then they have this massive rock that is split in the middle. And you're like, oh, this could be the rock that the water flowed from. You know, speculation. And even if it is still here, it doesn't function anymore. It doesn't have a function anymore. And I would rather believe it's not here than to believe that it is here and it doesn't function anymore. Because if it's supposed to be a holy place, it doesn't stop being holy, right? None of the things that he created holy stops being holy. He removes them. He removes the places from off the earth. And Mount Sinai, when it comes again, that's going to be the center for worship. That's where the Garden of Eden, the Garden of Odan, will be located. Right? Noach was happy when his sons divided up the land after the flood, and the portion that Shem received was the best portion because it was the place where the three holy places were created facing each other. Like the Garden of Odan, which is the same as the Holy of Holies, Mount Sinai and Mount Sinai were taken away to be returned during Hamashiach's millennial reign. He's going to reconstruct the earth. That's why he's going to have massive earthquakes. Read the sixth seal in Revelation. That global earthquake, sorry, I shouldn't use that word because that word gives you that idea of a globe. But that worldwide earthquake that's going to definitely move things out of place. Islands are going to sink, pieces of land are going to drop into the sea, and others are going to raise up. And, and that's not the only earthquake. There's going to be a number of other earthquakes. So Mount Sinai and Mount Sinai will be taken away, were taken away to be returned during Hamashiach's millennial reign. And I believe he's going to come back. Yes, they're going to come back. He's going to return everything to his earth. But right now he could not leave these holy places here because of how contaminated the earth is. Just look around you today. You don't have to look very far to see it. Nevertheless, Noach rejoiced because these three places were there, and this made this portion of the land the best piece of land compared to the other two that his other sons had. So he was rejoicing that Shem got the best part of the best selection of the land, because he got the selection where the three holy places were located. And that's why people say, oh, well, Africa is our place, and Eden and all these different places that we read about in the Bible is in Africa. No, it is not. You need to go and read and do your history, right? Read and study your history. The Hamites have the hot land, right? Japheth has Yapath has the cold lands, which is up north. And Shem, he got a combination of both, hot and cold, right? And where all the holy places that were created. That's what he got. The Garden of Odan is no longer on the earth, but it will be returned. It is also called paradise, but not to be mistaken for the paradise which is Abraham's bosom. That is on fourth level. Garden of Odan is both spiritual and physical, so that the righteous remnant will dwell when they are taken up in the chariots. That's where we're going, into his sanctuary. All right? This is the place of the living who have not seen death, but will be transformed like Hanawak and Alaya. There's a saying back in the church in those days, they say everybody have to die and then go to heaven. That's a lie. That's not true. Everyone doesn't have to die. There's nowhere or no place in the scripture that says that. Read the book of Revelation, where with all the destruction and the chaos and the confusion, did everyone die? No. A third of the men die here and there, but not one time did everyone die. And here's another thing. With all the things that are going to happen with the trumpets, the trumpet judgments, and the vial judgments, they're spaced. They're not one after the other, like in quick succession. No, there's going to be a space of time between, and maybe between certain judgments, there might be a longer span of time, and between others it might be shorter, right? But it's not quick succession for everything. So it's over, in a matter of a month or two or a year or whatever. It's going to be gradual. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen fiercely, right? But the Father, in his mercy and his gracious beautiful, wonderful way is going to allow people to recover. And babies will be born again. Yes, they will. Babies will never stop being born, although the devils, they're trying to stop that. Okay, fourth heaven is where Abraham's bosom is located. So I'm recapping again, and where the righteous who have died will dwell, right? Because you have in fourth heaven, okay, yeah, I'm going to read on. Fourth heaven is a spiritual place and is divided into two parts. One part is Abraham's bosom, and the other part is Hades, where the wicked dead will wait for their judgment. And there's a gulf in between where no one can cross over to the other side. The righteous are waiting for their reward and to be resurrected into their new life at the time of the millennial reign of Hamashiach. That's what they're waiting for. They call it, being under the altar, but they're waiting to be resurrected. Fifth heaven is where the storehouses are located for dew, snow, rain, hoarfrost, the winds, right? That's where those things are stored. Sixth heaven is where the angels of unbelievable beauty reside, who sing continuously. And seventh heaven is where the throne room of Yahuwah is located. Now, there are other books that speak of 3 more levels, making it 10, right? But I will remain with just these 7, because seventh heaven is the throne room of Yahuwah. Now, whether it's 7 or 10, it really doesn't matter. All say that third heaven is where the Garden of Odan is, where paradise is, where his sanctuary is. And that's the most important thing, right? So that's the ending of part 2. Please stay tuned for part 3 of the Chariots of Yasharaal, and I'll be answering some more questions and getting a little deeper and deeper into, about the Northern Kingdom, and even more about the Southern Kingdom, and why they were chosen to, or why the Father's calling them home before the Northern Kingdom. Okay, well, Shalom.